Hi everyone, welcome back to another amazing Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. I am your host, Jesus Ramirez. How are you doing this awesome Friday morning or afternoon or evening, depending where in the world you're watching from? Let me know in the chat. I am in the San Francisco Bay Area, and it's been an amazing set of Photoshop Daily Creative Challenges, but today is our last one, unfortunately. So I hope that you guys have a good time with this one. Let me take a look at the chat and see who we have with us here today. Tim, of course, RV, Sean, Steve, as usual, Tunak, Lorena. By the way, Tunak, I think I just saw your Behance profile. You had a banana, right, on your cover for the Daily Creative Challenges. Pretty cool stuff. Anthony, Paul, Victor, Michelle, Rudolph, Donna, Abraham. Thank you guys so much for watching. We have Michelle in the chat. Tim, good to see you as always. Neil, Mark, Colby. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Claudia from Print My Soul is in the house now. Angie, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you being with me this whole Daily Creative Challenge. If you are just joining us for the first time, then make sure that you come over into the Daily Creative Challenge page found at behance.net challenge/Photoshop. Once again, behance.net/challenge/Photoshop. And you'll see this page with the big blue button in the middle. If you haven't already, click on that button so that you can get notified via the Creative Cloud for future daily creative challenges. Also, make sure that you click on the community chat so that you access our Discord page where you can post your current challenge under feedback here on the left-hand side. Like my head is covering it. It's like right there. And you can see the work that we've been creating during the past several weeks, including the Roman sculpture from yesterday. And oh, this is pretty cool. Mount Rushmore with the technique that we showed yesterday. Awesome. David. So a lot of good work. The jersey design were Wolverhampton. Nice job. So yeah, so thank you guys so much for submitting all your work. So make sure that you come in here and post your current challenge work that you do on here. And you can ask questions, leave your comments, ask for advice. We have all the Adobe mentors, including Claudia from Print My Soul, Sam, Tim, Valdir, and Voodoo Val. And yeah, I highly recommend that you come and check it out. Once again, that's found under the community chat link here under How Does It Work? Also, every day we've been unlocking a new challenge, and you can see the floating island challenge that we're working on today, May 22nd, and you can click on the Get Started button to access a Dropbox link that will give you access to the PSD for today's challenge. So make sure you download that now. I'll give you a couple minutes so that you can follow along with me, and then I'll mention a couple other things. If I go a little too fast or you miss a step, no worries. You can always come back and watch the replay by clicking on this big blue button that reads Watch Video for the corresponding stream. So if you miss one, you can go back and watch the replay as well. Also, during the weekend, if you still need more daily creative challenges, you can keep scrolling down and you can see the past challenges. All the past challenges are here. So there's a lot of work that you could create, a lot of videos to watch. So if you haven't already, make sure you check them all out. And yeah, this is where the archive is, and you can watch as many as you want. Cool. Also, when you submit your work, make sure that you use the hashtag PS Daily Challenge, to have an opportunity to be featured in the curated community gallery here. So this is some of the work that we're featuring based on the daily challenges that people submit using the hashtag PS Daily Challenge under the Discoverability. If you don't know what I mean by that, make sure that you watch day number 1, the welcome stream, and I show how to upload a project onto Behance, this big blue button here. That way you know how to add that hashtag and you have an opportunity to be featured in our gallery. So you could also do the same for the XD challenges and the Illustrator challenges using the corresponding hashtags, and you may have an opportunity to be featured in the gallery. Let me see if we have any comments in the chat. We have a lot of people letting me know where they're from. Nicola from the UK. We got Monica from Germany. Awesome. Oh, Bay Area, not far from me. Awesome, JJ. Yeah, I am in the San Francisco Bay Area, so definitely not far. Thank you so much, Ted. I appreciate that. It's definitely been 2 great weeks. Thank you so much for joining me. We got Hadi from India. We got Imtiaz from Pakistan. Thank you guys so much for watching. Somebody, Colby wrote, look at all those notifications, LOL. That gives me anxiety to see. And that's just Discord. You haven't seen my YouTube notifications or my Facebook notifications or my Instagram notifications. I'm not complaining. I do appreciate you guys sending me messages and just being nice, but it can be a little overwhelming if I just pay attention to how many unread messages I have. So, but yeah, I try to read everything you guys send me. Sometimes it takes me a little while to reply. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. Cool. So I think that by now you guys probably have downloaded the file that we're going to work with. Once again, just in case you missed it, you can go under the behance.net/challenge/Photoshop page, scroll down to the floating island daily challenge, which is today's May 22nd. And you should have downloaded this right here. It's a Photoshop document with 3 layers, a clouds layers, a castle layer, and a mountain layer. And what we're going to do is we're going to combine the 3 images into one and make it seem like a floating island. So that's gonna be our composite for today, a floating island. And it's actually quite simple. You just have to master a couple compositing principles, and then you should make almost anything work. So why don't we jump right into it? Let's see. So the first thing that I'm going to do is work with the mountains layer. So I'll disable the other ones and just work with this one, so that it's easier for me to see and nothing confuses me. And what I'm going to do is just select the quick selection tool from the toolbar, and I'm going to click and drag and make sure I'm in the right layer, by the way. So click on the mountains layer if you're not there. I wasn't on it, so I was selecting different pixels, but now I'm in the mountains layer, and I can click and drag and make a selection. By the way, something I should mention, I could have also checked sample all layers and it would have worked fine. I personally don't like using sample all layers with the quick selection tool, just because I want to have control of what I'm selecting. So if I have a layer active, that's probably where I want to make a selection. So I don't like using the sample all layers option for that, because I just want to make sure that I'm selecting what I'm really trying to select, the things on that layer. But anyway, so I'm just going to click and drag and just make a rough selection. It doesn't need to be perfect. I just want to get this main area here like so, and I'm just going to click on the layer mask icon to mask it out. Not perfect, and that's okay. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm just going to double click on the side of the layer mask here to bring up the select and mask workspace, and you can see that the edges are very jagged, and we can smooth them out under global refinements by clicking on the smooth slider and dragging it to the right. That will smooth them out. Pretty cool stuff. And I can also shift the edge inward to try to remove any fringing, that white halos that you see in selections sometimes. By the way, I am in the black and white view with and the reason that I'm doing that is because I don't really need to see the edges. It's just the mountain. There doesn't, I just want to be able to see that I have a good mask, and maybe I need a little more contrast, and then I can press OK. So I didn't really need to see the actual pixels for this particular layer. I'm just more concerned about the contours and the outline. And this is going to be small, and we're going to blur the edges, so it's really not that big of a deal. But anyway, so now that I have that selected, I'm just going to right click and convert it into a smart object. One of the reasons that I'm converted into a smart object is so that when I press Ctrl-T, Command-T to transform, I don't have all this extra space. See that? See how I have all this extra space here? That's because that's how big the original layer is. But if I convert it into a smart object, it keeps it editable, of course, but also makes the transformation handles much more manageable for the composite that I'm working with. So it helps me for those 2 reasons. So what I'm going to do now is enable the background, the clouds layer, and I'm just going to rotate it, click and drag to rotate it to the other side, like so. Oops, sorry about that. Let me try that again. There we go, like so. And if you notice my background, the light is coming from the left side here, and it should be hitting the mountains on the left side as well, but it's not. The light is hitting it on the right. So all I need to do is press Ctrl-T, Command-T to transform, right click and flip the layer horizontally. So now the light more or less matches the scene. So that looks pretty good. Also, I gotta figure out how far back I'm gonna put it into the C-axis, put the island into into the background, like the depth. So, you know, maybe somewhere around here. And if that were the case, it just wouldn't be so sharp. So I'll just blur it a little bit for now. And maybe I need to come back and adjust it, and that's fine. But I just want a slight blur. I don't want it so sharp. Like so. And let's work on the castle now. I'll put the castle layer on the very top. And to select the castle, it's actually quite easy because it's right in the center of the photo, and everything else is, you know, sort of it's sort of framed by the clouds and the water and all that. So selected mask should do a really good job. So we can go into select and click on subject, and Photoshop will make a selection out of that castle. It looks pretty good, and you can always zoom in and see if it did a good job. And you know, kind of missed the top part here, but that's okay. I'm just gonna add it with the polygonal lasso tool and keep that in. So yeah, you can just click and drag and see if it made a good selection, and it looks like it did in most of the image. Maybe I can add a little bit of this building as well, like so. And that looks pretty good. Everything else should be too small when we scale the layer, so we should be fine with this selection. What I'm gonna do now is on the castle layer, just click on the layer mask icon to make a layer mask based on the selection, and we remove the background. Let me see if we have questions. Sean wrote 3D question mark. No, I'm not sure what you mean by that. I don't know if it's related to another comment in the chat. Awesome. Any way to use the sample images without the Adobe Stock stamp in it? Dominic wrote. So you could license the image if you like. That requires either a subscription or you paying for that one particular image. And the reason that I can't give you the images without the watermark is I don't have the license to give them out for free. I mean, legally I can't do that. So also they're very easy for you to access and use if you want to, you know, use them for projects and stuff like that. So it just makes more sense for me to give you a watermark photo instead of maybe even just like a free photo from the internet, because again, for legal reasons. But for practice, it's no problem. The watermark is there and you still learn the technique. So it shouldn't be that big of an issue. Sometimes I give you my own photos, like when I gave you a self-portrait, so that obviously has no legal problems. But anyway, cool. Let me go ahead and now work with this castle layer. I guess I'll convert it into a smart object as well. Why not? And I'm going to place it on top of the island here. And then you can see this pivot point by default in Photoshop 2020. It's not on. So if you haven't enabled it, by clicking on this checkbox here in the options bar on the top left, after pressing Control T, make sure that you enable it. And when you enable it, you can click and drag it to wherever you want to scale from. And if you click and drag on a corner handle and hold the Alt key on Windows, the Option on the Mac, you'll scale from that point. Depending on your version of Photoshop or your settings, you may need to hold the Shift key to keep it constrained. We talked about it on the streams before. I'm old school. I've been using this for 20 years, and I like holding the Shift key to keep it constrained, so I changed the settings back to the old way. Control K, Command K on the Mac to bring up the preferences window, and you can use the legacy free transform right here to make sure that you use the Shift key to transform if you like the old way. If you prefer the new way, no problem. The new way is just fine. It just depends on the muscle memory that you have. But anyway, so now we have our castle on top of the island, and we can just create a layer mask on the mountains layer, and I can paint with black using a brush to better adjust the way it blends with the mountain, with the castle, I'm sorry. So I'm just clicking and dragging here and just making sure it blends much better with the castle, like so. Now we have another issue, and the issue is that the contrast from the castle is different than the contrast on the mountains. And if I make a black and white adjustment layer, I think you'll be able to see it better. See that? See how the castle is just much brighter than the mountains in the bottom? So what you really want to do is have the darkest pixels of the castle layer match the darkest pixels of the mountain, or the other way around, match the darkest pixels from the castle on the mountain layer. Totally up to you, depends on the atmospheric perspective that you're working with. That's actually something very important with compositing. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go onto my website, and my YouTube channel is in here. If I you know what, let me just go right into my YouTube channel. That way I can show you something probably easier for you guys. So if you go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com, Photoshop training channel, and you go into the little search bar here to search my videos. There's one called atmospheric perspective video, that one right here, atmospheric perspective. So that's basically what I'm talking about now. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but when you're making composites, you need to figure out how to put something in the z-axis in the depth of the image. So that's what that video is all about, and I'm briefly going to talk about it now. But if you're curious and finding out more, check out that video. It's only 15 minutes, not long. But the point is that I need to make sure that the atmospheric perspective matches in the scene. So one of the ways of fixing that will be into going into the mountains layer. Since it's a smart object, I can go into image adjustment levels, and I'm still working non-destructively. I don't need an adjustment layer for this. It'll apply it as a smart filter. But anyway, what I can do now is tell Photoshop how dark the darkest pixels will be. So notice that right now the darkest pixel is black, but if I drag this to the right, the darkest pixel is no longer black, it's a darker shade of gray. So that more closely resembles the castle layer. See that? Before and after. So you definitely need to do that. Once you press OK, the changes are made. When you make an adjustment like that, you also may inadvertently adjust the saturation. And if you're adjusting the saturation, that might not be a good thing. So you can open up the smart filter, and right here where it says levels, to the right of that, there's this little icon. And if you click on it, it will allow you to adjust the opacity and the blending mode for that particular adjustment. So I can just change the blending mode to luminosity. It might not be a big change in this case, but I'm just showing you the option there, so that way that levels adjustment layer didn't adjust color or saturation, just the brightness. So that's something I recommend that you do, and you can press OK. So let's see let me see if there's any questions in the chat, and also let me look at the time. Cool. Yeah, no questions. Awesome. Also, I guess I should have posted that video's link in the chat. So why don't I do that now? So I'm just going to copy that link, and I'm going to post it in the chat so that you guys know where that video is. And give me 1 second. There you go. It's now in the chat, guys. So just in case you're wondering. But anyway, so now we got to worry about a couple things, and we either need to, you see how the shadows here have like this magenta color? We can remove that or apply it to the mountain. The point is that they both need it. Also the mountains, if you notice, the light is coming from the right, not the left. So I need to flip the mountains around. So Control-T, Command-T to transform. I'm sorry, not the mountains, the castle. Right click, flip horizontal. There we go. That matches much better. And like I said, the shadows have like a magenta tint to them. We can apply it to the mountains maybe. We'll see how that looks. So mountains, and this time, let me see, how am I going to do this? What would be the easiest way? I think the easiest way might be going into image, adjustment, color balance. No, not color balance. Let's do, let me see. Let's do selective color. Yeah, let's do selective color. And what I'm going to do is just bring the drop down to the blacks here under colors, and then just add a little bit of magenta to the shadows like so. See that? I'm just adding a little bit of magenta, and then maybe make the blacks a little brighter just so that it matches the top image better, before and after. So, maybe I was a little heavy-handed there. Maybe you can reduce the magenta down a little bit, but I think that you get the idea. We got about 3 more minutes, so I want to make sure I get to everything I wanted to show you. Cool. So now what I can do is place these 2 layers, the castle and the mountains, into a group. Control-G, Command-G on the Mac, and I can now, I'll call it island just so that we know what that is. And now I can just decide where in my scene this will be, and I can, maybe make it smaller and place it right about there. And here's another trick for you. What you can do now is you could add a new layer, and I'm just going to select like maybe some of the oranges here, some of the brighter oranges or yellows, and then just paint over everything. I'm just gonna paint over everything like so. And I'm gonna press Control Alt G, Command Option G on the Mac to clip that to the layer below so that only the castle and the mountains are affected, the floating island. And I can just reduce the opacity so that now I'm adding a little bit of that atmospheric color to the entire thing. See that? So maybe something like that. Just a subtle effect. So it looks like it's far, far away. And then what I could do now is create yet another layer, clip it to the layer below, Control Alt G, Command Option G on the Mac, and just maybe use like a brighter version of that color. And then paint like on the side here. And this is gonna be our highlight, something like that. And I can change the blending mode to maybe overlay or soft light, maybe soft light in this case. And let me zoom in. And to make it a little more realistic, I'll double click to the side here and I use the underlying layer slider, the black slider here, to bring out some of those darker pixels. Then I'll hold Alt on Windows, Option on the Mac, and click to split those in half and just create a smoother transition like that. So it's not so flat looking. So before and after, and you can of course adjust the opacity, totally up to you how you do that. And what I'll do now is, you know what, maybe I made it too small, but that's fine. I see that I only have 2 minutes. I would probably make it a little larger. You know what, it's gonna bother me. Let's change it. I'll make it just a little larger. Maybe something like that. But anyway, once you get to about this point and you decide on where you're gonna place your island, the last step will be to select all your layers and right click and convert them into a smart object so that you can work on this image as a single photo, and you can go into filter, camera, raw filter, and just maybe apply a temperature slider, just make everything warmer. And in this case, I'm going to reduce the texture so it's a little more, you know, soft and dreamlike. And I'll do the same with the clarity and maybe adjust the vibrance a little bit just to give it just a little more saturation. And I can go into the effects icon, and you guys know what I'm about to do because I do it all the time. I love adding grain to composites. They just look a little more like photos. They don't look so digital in my opinion. So just a tiny little bit of grain, and maybe add a little bit of a vignette, just a tiny little bit, and press OK. So that's our before and our after. I think it does make the image feel a little more cohesive, and it brings it in. Awesome, just in time for me to just go run through the things I need to do before I said goodbye. So this is the final result. Make sure that you submit it onto Discord, which is right here. If you don't know how to get to that, make sure that you go into the behance.net/challenge/Photoshop page and go to where it says, how does it work? Community chat. And on Discord, you can submit it on the left-hand side under current challenge. You can ask your questions. You can let us know any comments. And I'd love to see the floating islands that you create. Also, make sure that you use the hashtag PSDailyChallenge so that you can have an opportunity to have your work featured in this curated community gallery. So make sure that you do that. Also, make sure that you, if you haven't already, and you want to watch more of my stuff, you can go into Photoshop Training Channel on YouTube, and I have tons of tutorials. I just started a brand new series on my channel called Copycat Wednesday. So I basically take like a popular movie poster, book cover, album cover, popular looks, and then recreate them in Photoshop. So I did the Joyner Lucas album cover, much like I did here in the challenge. I did the Prodigal Son movie poster that you see there. I've also done this Flash running scene, Flash the superhero. I've also recreated the look from the Lightroom splash screen, so you might want to check that out. The Perfume movie poster. So I think that if you're into compositing, like the kind of stuff you saw today, I think that you'll really enjoy that series. Also, if you haven't already, follow me on Instagram. I have a brand new Instagram account, Photoshop Training Channel on Instagram. So you could follow me there if you like. And of course, follow me on Behance. You can see my Behance profile there in the chat. Thank you guys so much for watching. It was awesome being here with you these last 2 weeks. I really enjoy the challenges. I hope that you did as well. Let me know in the chat if you enjoy them. I hope that you have a wonderful weekend and stick around for more Adobe Live. Thank you guys so much, and I'll talk to you guys again on my next stream, which actually I'll be hosting next week. I'll be hosting compositing session, we'll have another artist in here creating. Sean will be here creating with you guys, but I'll be here hosting. So I'll see you next week, and thank you guys for watching. Take care. See you later. Bye.